Hey, welcome to the nightly edition of the Investigative Journal. I'm your host, Greg Szymanski, and my guest today was a member of the Illuminati, the Ordine, Nero they call it in Italian, the family, the order, for over 30 years. She left 10 years ago, has a story to tell that will put chills right through your body. This isn't the type of story that I normally do every day, and it's a story I did an earlier show with Vali, and I'll tell you something. It is one thing to talk about the Illuminati in general terms. It's one thing to, from afar, talk about George Bush and everyone else. It's another thing to go deeply into the Illuminati and to discuss certain things that Vali's going to talk about, which are very graphic, very horrific, and we're going to go into it because I want to impress upon you folks that these people exist, they're dangerous, and they are deeply rooted in our country. Now, 20 years ago, when I was covering stories, I'm a print journalist by trade, and I was working in Rome for 6 years. This was back in the early 80s, and I'll tell you firsthand, I learned from people there during a number of scandals that were going on that the heart of these problems is the Vatican. It all goes back to the Vatican, and I can say that without question. I met people there who told me about it. I met people who went through the same, one woman who went through the same induction ceremony as our guest tonight is going to tell you about. And I also talked about, back then, how they had talked to people who said they were deeply embedded in America. With that, I'm going to introduce my guest, and I might add, Svali's only granted this one interview today with me. She said she couldn't sleep last night. It was very difficult, and I really want to thank you, Svali, for coming on and sharing this, because I think it's going to help a lot of people, as my emails from this morning have showed. How are you tonight?
Oh, good. How are you, Greg?
Very good. I want to get right into this. You were born into the Illuminati, the family, the order. Tell us a little bit about your childhood and lead us into this induction ceremony in Rome, in the Vatican, when you were 12.
Okay. Well, I'm going to be brief because we don't have a lot of time, but I was born in the group, as both of my parents were in it, so it wasn't a question of being recruited at all. I mean, from my earliest days growing up, that's all I ever knew was being part of the group. My training began at a very early age. It continued throughout my childhood, and by the time I was 12, in the group, normally a person's considered an adult by the age of 12, and right at the point of between 12 and 13, they actually do a formal swearing in into your adult role within the group. And for me, part of this was going to Rome. My parents here prepared me for it, but then I went to Germany because I'm with the German house. I was born in Germany, came to the United States when I was young. But because I belonged to the German house in Europe, I went to the German father's house, and from there went with him and the French father to the Vatican, and during that time went through a ceremony. It's a very horrible ceremony. I mean, there's a room beneath the Vatican that a lot of people don't know about. You go below the basement level there, and I remember going down the stairs, and there's a room there, and it's a round room, and there's 13 catacombs that lead into the room, chambers, and they had taken a mummified figure from inside the catacombs and placed them beside each of the openings in the room, and they told me at the time that the spirits of the departed fathers were washed over the ceremony because they really believe that their roots go back to Rome and even pre-Roman times. They then held a ceremony, and there was a gold pentagram on the floor, but above the pentagram there was a black stone table. And
stay close to your phone, Sally, okay?
Oh, yes. Okay. Well, there was above the pentagram there was a black stone table, and it was made of a shiny stone, and there were gold, like at the end there were like little, I know you call it like little channels to collect fluid on each corner, and they were made of gold. And during the ceremony, they sacrificed a little boy, and after that, the man, he was dressed in scarlet robes, went to he moved to the center, actually to the side of the room, to the side of the table, and I had to go forward and kiss his ring, kneel before him and kiss his ring and swear my undying loyalty to the world order. And
now, stay close to the phone. Who was with you now in this when you were going through this ceremony?
The French father, he represented the French house. The German father, he represented the German house. There were some other adults there too. Some were Catholic Church officials, and there were 2 other children as well who went through the ceremony.
And you said there were 3 adults?
There's more than 3 adults. There was probably about, I'd say, 9 adults in the room with us total.
Now, what did they say to you after? I mean, what was going through your mind when they were sacrificing this child? I mean, just tell us, can you remember back to what you were feeling?
Well, I was terrified. I mean, I was absolutely terrified. This is one of the most terrifying things a person can go through. So I remember just thinking, I can't wait till it's over. I can't wait till it's over. I can't wait to get through, It was like inside I kept, it's almost like you internally just talk to yourself or through it, like, I hope it's over soon, I hope it's over soon, I hope it's over soon.
Now, you're looking back now, why do you think what's the purpose of this?
I think it's to instill terror in people, because after the ceremony was over, the man conducting it said, may the same occur to you, or worse, should you ever break this oath. And at the time, I was so terrified that the thought of ever breaking that oath never even occurred to me, because I believed him. These people are not nice people, and when you go through something like that, it makes you very, not only does it instill quote-unquote loyalty, but instills a lot of terror.
Well, like I told you before, when 20 years ago, when I was approached by someone in Rome when I was covering these stories, and they told me a similar story when they were a child, and basically echoed what you're saying about what went on in their ceremony. This woman eventually committed suicide jumping off the Vatican roof.
Yeah.
And let me tell you something. After that, I began researching this story in depth and found out some incredible things 25 years ago that are basically coming true now in this country. A couple minutes here before the break, now you left this you left this ceremony, you're 12 years old. Tell us who you left with and what happened afterwards then.
Well, I left with the German father, and afterwards he praised me. He said, you did well, because I did everything I was supposed to do during the ceremony, and I didn't cry out or anything like that. And then we just went and we stayed at a local house. It was a wealthy person, and we stayed at the house, spent the night, and then we flew back to Germany the next day. And
did he tell you anything about how you did or what they expected of you?
No, before he had, but he just said you performed well, and he said this will help you rise in the family.
Okay, Zvali, just stay right there. We're going to get back. We're talking to Zvali, a member of the Illuminati for many, many years on the Genesis Communication Radio Network.